Greeting acolytes of a galaxy far, far away, and today we are here for a massive episode breakdown for the Book of Boba Fett, Episode 6. The title of this episode is From the Desert Comes a Stranger, which is a direct tie-in to the massive cameo that we get at the end of the episode. With that said, acolytes, there will be major spoilers in this video for the Book of Boba Fett, Episode 6, so if you have not seen the episode yet, I highly implore you to go watch it before continuing on with this video. As in the video, we'll be breaking down every single major cameo, callbacks to previous films, as well as major retcons to a galaxy far, far away, which in the episode the retcons actually have to do with the films as well as the comic books, and we have a few here. But without further ado, my friends, let's go ahead and get into our full breakdown for the Book of Boba Fett, Episode 6. The episode kicks off with a familiar face in Cobb Vanth, who we last saw in The Mandalorian, played again by Timothy Olyphant. Cobb Vanth, who is the sheriff of Freetown and is also clearly opposed to that of the Pikes. It's clear that a lot of the natives of Tatooine are very much against the Pikes and their collection of spice. Spice, very similar to the Dune franchise, which Star Wars takes a ton of inspiration from, is used in the development of various drugs, including death sticks, which we first saw offered to Obi-Wan Kenobi all the way back in Attack of the Clones. We also see that the Pikes here appear to be working on some sort of speeder, which actually looks very similar to the speeder that Han Solo used in the beginning of Solo, a Star Wars story, when he was attempting to escape with Kira, and attempting to escape the planet of Corellia. Spikes here is mainly used as a hallucinogen, again very similar to that of the Dune franchise, and it's clear that the Pikes have been taking over Tatooine after the fall of the Empire and after the Empire has left that power vacuum vacant. We learn here that the Pikes intend to hire a bounty hunter after they are chased away by Cobb Vanth, a bounty hunter which we all know is Cad Bane, but we'll save talking about Cad Bane for the end of the video as we have a ton of other stuff to break down here. We then pick up with none other than Din Djarin the Mandalorian as he's flying his brand new N1 starfighter or Naboo starfighter that he received at the end of the previous episode. What's important here is that R2-D2 actually recognizes the ship. This is because all the way back in the Phantom Menace, it was an N1 starfighter that Anakin and R2 flew around with to fight against the Separatists, which is a callback all the way to the prequels and explains away exactly why R2 is so familiar with the ship. Once Din Djarin arrives on the planet, we see that droids are constructing Luke Skywalker's Jedi Academy as well as his Jedi Temple, and I want to spend a large majority of this video talking about what Luke Skywalker has been up to and what has ultimately led him to this point in his long journey, as this takes place roughly 5 years after Return of the Jedi. So I want to answer the question, why didn't Luke Skywalker immediately taking on students? Well, we know in The Rise of Skywalker that Leia was actually Luke's very first student, and that he trained Leia on the planet of Endor after the events of Jedi, but that Leia ultimately decided not to train as a Jedi Knight, receiving a vision and an impression that the death of her unborn son, Ben Solo, lied at the end of her Jedi path, and therefore Leia decided to move on and become a senator, rather than become a fully formed Jedi Knight like her brother, which leads us into this episode and Grogu being the first official student of Luke. We know that Luke spent the majority of this time searching for various artifacts and knowledge both from the Jedi and Sith in order to construct a better Jedi Academy and a better Jedi Order as a whole, one that encouraged more attachments in Star Wars Legends, but as we see here in Star Wars canon, it appears as if attachments are still very much considered a dangerous thing among Jedi, as Ahsoka will talk to Din Djarin a little bit later in the episode about this. Nonetheless, we see the droids constructing what appears to be the same Jedi Academy from The Force Awakens as well as from The Last Jedi that we also got in the Rise of Kylo Ren comic book, so this does appear as if this is in fact the Jedi Academy that will later be destroyed by a Force storm via Darth Sidious himself. It's actually not at all correct that Ben Solo was the one to destroy Luke Skywalker's Jedi Academy, even though Luke Skywalker believes it was in fact Ben Solo. Rather, Palpatine sends a Force storm and then Ben Solo is forced to run away after the Academy is destroyed by said storm. It was never actually Ben Solo or Kylo Ren that directly destroyed the Academy. Nonetheless, though, the point is, this does appear to be that exact same academy. In terms of knowledge that Luke Skywalker has been collecting, it appears as if he has found a Wayfinder, as well as we know he collected a Jedi Compass all the way back from Battlefront, which was one of the first major canon appearances of Luke. We also know, thanks to various comic books, that he also has a piece of the original Jedi Temple that was in the courtyard all the way back in the Clone Wars, and a tree that is apparently Force sensitive. Over the last 5 years, Luke Skywalker has been learning as much as he can can about the past in order to build a brighter future for the Jedi. And now this is a brand new stage for Luke Skywalker, and we can sort of officially look at him as Jedi Master Luke Skywalker, as over those last 5 years he's gone on his journey as a Jedi Knight, but now appears to be a fully formed Master, and is beginning his journey as a Jedi Master. We have to remember back in Return of the Jedi that ultimately turning against the dark side of the Force and redeeming his father Vader was the moment where Luke Skywalker became a Jedi Knight, as before this he would have technically been considered a Jedi Padawan, so it makes sense that it would take several more years for the Knight to become the Master. I also want to talk about Luke Skywalker's CGI here. It looks a whole lot better than it did at the end of The Mandalorian Season 2, and it looks like they put a whole lot more time into it. It's almost indistinguishable from this and a real actor, and I really hope that we end up seeing more of Luke Skywalker in The Mandalorian Season 3, and more importantly in the Ahsoka series, and I hope he's a major player from now on, as Lucasfilm is really beginning to stretch their legs and show that they can have Luke as a recurring character in CGI. Here we see Luke then teaches Grogu to lift the frogs, which is very reminiscent of Yoda teaching Luke how to lift the X-Wing out of the bog of Dagobah, at least on a much smaller scale, and beginning to have Luke open up Grogu's mind and show him that he still has power within the Force deep within him, something that he's subdued within himself after the events of Order 66 and the trauma of the Jedi Purge. The Jedi Purge, which we actually get a small glimpse at a little bit later in the episode. We see here though that one of Luke Skywalker's primary lessons that he wants to impart upon Grogu is how to jump, teaching the little guy how to become a little bit more mobile. As we see, he's actually using the Force to move him along throughout the episode, and Grogu does actually learn to jump a little bit later. This is also where Luke mentions Yoda, which we will also mention Yoda a little bit later. Yoda's species is so significant to a galaxy far, far away because George Lucas wanted to keep him and his species completely shrouded in mystery, and wanted to reveal as little as possible about Yoda, looking at Yoda as a mystical spiritual leader rather than a fully developed species, which is why the introduction of Grogu all the way back in the first season of The Mandalorian was such a big deal. In Star Wars canon, we still only really know about 3 confirmed members of Yoda's species, that being Yoda, Yaddle, and now Grogu. In George Lucas's notes, it was originally implied that Yoda's species could actually be the Wills of the Force or the Guardians of the Force, but canon has since taken this in a much different direction, and it does appear as if Yoda's species is in fact a species out there in the galaxy, but an extraordinarily rare one to find. What's also unique about Yoda's species is every single member appears to be Force sensitive, which was the exact same in Star Wars Legend. It is here that something huge in the Star Wars galaxy occurs, as we get another flashback to Order 66, with Luke telling Ahsoka that Grogu is more uncovering memories that he had and past training that he had, rather than Luke teaching him new things about the Force, as again Grogu has very much suppressed everything that he's learned. In the flashback, there are 3 distinct Jedi that are protecting the little Grogu, 3 Jedi that I believe that we can identify, one of which is Jedi Battle Master Sin Drallig. Sin Drallig was actually considered one of Anakin Skywalker's first notable Jedi kills, as being a Battle Master meant that Sin Drallig was one of, if not the best duelist of the Jedi Order, behind maybe Yoda and Mace Windu, and was in fact responsible for teaching Anakin Skywalker and Obi-Wan Kenobi alike in lightsaber combat, as well as countless other Padawans. This is why when Anakin Skywalker ultimately kills him during Operation Nightfall, that this was such a significant deal, as Sin Drallig was also stated by Dooku to be one of the few Jedi that he believed could best General Grievous. In Revenge of the Sith, on the holomonitor, we actually got to see Anakin cut down Sin Drallig as well as the 2 other Padawans that we see here, which is a major inconsistency with what we see now in the Book of Boba Fett, as it's clear that the clone troopers appear to shoot down Sin Drallig as well as the youngling. Also, the other 2 younglings are actually in promotional art for Revenge of the Sith, and their names are Jedi Padawans Bean and Wee, who again premiere promotional images for Revenge of the Sith alongside Sin Drallig. It remains very clear at this point in time that another Jedi may come along and actually save Grogu from Order 66 and Nightfall, with Mace Windu still being a very prevalent theory, with it being a huge stinger and a big reveal at the end of the Book of Boba Fett that Mace Windu did actually survive Order Order 66, and is responsible for sneaking Grogu out of the Jedi Temple. However, there are other candidates of who could have saved Grogu, including Jocasta Nu, as well as various other examples. But if the Book of Boba Fett wants to leave the audience with a massive stinger, if Mace Windu is in fact alive and did in fact save Grogu, this would be incredible. Again though, the big inconsistency here is that Anakin Skywalker actually kills the two Jedi Padawans as well as Sindralig on the Holomonitor in Revenge of the Sith, and this does actually appear to be a retcon, which I'm not exactly how I feel about, as it was considered a massive deal for Anakin to have killed Sindralig, a battle master, as it was very much a part of Anakin asserting his dominance over the Jedi Order, and Sindralig was one of his first great trials. We then see that Luke Skywalker continues his training with Grogu, and even does a slip similar to the way that he did all the way back in Empire Strikes Back. Earlier in the episode, which is something that I want to touch on now, we also hear Ahsoka Tano mention to Din Djarin that she is an old friend of the family, which of course is a reference to our boy Anakin Skywalker, who we'll be seeing again in the Kenobi series, which we're super hyped about. Anyway though, it becomes clear here that Mando not being allowed to see the child because they don't want to interfere with his training is very much stuck in the dogma of the old Jedi, and very much still against attachments. However, this could be specifically for Grogu, as we know his attachments make him powerful but also dangerous, and may what ultimately draw him closer to the dark side of the Force. However, Grogu will make a decision a little bit later in the episode and in the next episode, which may lead him down a path separate from that of the Jedi. Something else that's a little disappointing in this moment is we do not actually get to see the first meeting of Ahsoka Tano and Luke. However, by the episode it is clear that they have met before, which would mean that they would meet sometime in that 5-year time gap that we did not get to see following Return of the Jedi, and I very much hope that we get to see their first interaction a little bit later. It's clear though here that Ahsoka Tano is not a part of Luke Skywalker's Jedi Academy formally, but it's also clear that Ahsoka also is taking on very much of a mentor role with Luke, which is something that I love and find highly appropriate for the Skywalker lineage and saga. And I hope Luke Skywalker makes various appearances over the Ahsoka series and again in other Star Wars episodes, as the relationship that the Skywalkers have with Ahsoka Tano I think is one of the best in all of Star Wars. And now the fact that Ahsoka gets to mentor Luke has brought everything full circle, and almost seems appropriate as the passing down of the mantle, with Obi-Wan and now Ahsoka teaching the young Skywalker, the two individuals besides Padme of course that were the most influential in Anakin Skywalker's life, and now giving the characters like Ahsoka and Obi-Wan the opportunity to do the right thing with a new Skywalker, allowing them to achieve penance for their shortfallings with the Chosen One, a detail that I am in love with. We also see as Din Djarin leaves the planet after delivering his present to Grogu, which we will later learn in the episode is Beskar chainmail, as many people speculated that it might be, that Grogu can actually sense Din Djarin as he leaves, leading into a major decision that the character will make either in the next episode or in the 3rd season of The Mandalorian. As Din Djarin returns to Tatooine to help Boba with his job against the Pikes, we see the remains of Jabba's sail barge at Jabba's palace. We also see the team that Boba Fett has assembled together, including again the likes of Black Chrysanthemum, Fennec Shand, and way more. We also see here that Mando will be recruiting people for Boba Fett as well, as we venture back to Freetown and reveal one of the biggest cameos in the entire episode, possibly bigger than that of Luke Skywalker and Ahsoka, as this is the first time that this character has ever appeared in live action, and I think that they did an absolutely phenomenal job with him. The stranger in the desert is revealed to be Cad Bane, which confirms his return after we last saw him in the Bad Batch. This is significant as we know now that he not only survives the events of the Bad Batch, but that his story carries on well past Return of the Jedi, which is great to see, as originally Cad Bane was slated to be killed by Boba Fett in an unfinished episode of Star Wars The Clone Wars, and it's great that his lineage now continues on. For those of you that don't know, Dave Filoni actually wrote this episode for the Book of Boba Fett, so it makes sense why he would want to play around with characters that he had a hand in creating, such as Ahsoka Tano and now again Cad Bane, which I can honestly say Luke Skywalker was expected, and while many fans speculated that we may see Cad Bane, his appearance is a huge deal, and fans of only the live action shows are in for a real treat, as Cad Bane is one of the only bounty hunters that can contend with the likes of Boba Fett and Din Din Djarin. Cad Bane, who was considered a Jedi specialist during the era of the Clone Wars, and plagued Jedi such as Anakin and Obi-Wan Kenobi, getting the better of them several times. This moment in the episode also very much feels like an old-time western. And what's also important to remember is that Boba and Cad Bane have a real rivalry. After Jango Fett was killed on Geonosis, Cad Bane was sort of considered the main premier bounty hunter to hire, which is what originally sparked the rivalry between Boba and Cad. As we see here against Cobb Vanth, Cad Bane is much quicker on the draw, and he does actually get shot. However, I do believe that Cobb Vanth, played again by Timothy Olyphant, will return in either The Mandalorian Season 3 or even more likely next week's finale. And finally, the episode ends with a decision between Luke Skywalker and Grogu. Luke ultimately places the chainmail before Grogu, as well as reveals that he has Yoda's lightsaber. This also being another major retcon, as the lightsaber was destroyed by a clone via Darth Sidious. When Darth Sidious ordered all of the Jedi lightsabers that were collected following Order 66 to publicly be destroyed within a furnace on the steps of the Jedi Temple. This is done as Sidious is explaining to Vader how he needs to bleed a lightsaber crystal and receive a red lightsaber. But in the comic book, which is the Darth Vader comic book, which details his first year as a Sith Lord, we specifically see that Yoda's lightsaber is the last lightsaber to be destroyed within this furnace. So it doesn't make a lot of sense why Luke Skywalker would have it, and again, this is another major retcon. Nonetheless, Luke Skywalker does have Yoda's lightsaber, which he intends to give to Grogu if Grogu is interested in continuing his Jedi path. However, Grogu has a major decision to make here: continue his Jedi path with Luke, or become a Mandalorian and follow Din, his father. I think it's fairly likely which decision Grogu will ultimately make, as he will likely make the decision to follow his father Din Djarin and continue on with the Mandalorian creed. But it appears as if Luke Skywalker is unwilling to train Grogu as a Jedi, if he intends to live in the past with his father Din Djarin, which is a decision which frankly makes a lot of sense. But I do hope that Luke Skywalker becomes more of a recurring character later down the line in The Mandalorian Season 3, and does in fact play a pivotal role. I do believe though that again Grogu will ultimately choose the Beskar chainmail and will return to Din Djarin's side. As we know, Din Djarin's starfighter even has a little spot for Grogu, which was clear foreshadowing for the future of The Mandalorian. But anyway, my friends, that was my breakdown for episode 6 of the Book of Boba Fett. The best episode of the Book of Boba Fett so far, and maybe my favorite live-action Star Wars episode of all time. The return of Ahsoka Tano, Luke Skywalker, and now the first live-action appearance of Cad Bane, it's absolutely stacked with cameos. But anyway, my friends, what are your thoughts on the episode? And did we miss anything in our breakdown, from Easter eggs to character plot points? And what are you hoping to see specifically in the finale for the Book of Boba Fett? As always, my friends, thank you guys so much for watching the channel. May the Force be with you, and I hope you have a great day.